All right, everybody. The dream is dead. Well, for some people, it was a dream. Maybe for other people, it was a nightmare. For a lot of other people, it was a little bit more complicated than just being good or bad. So, I mean, there's room for plenty of different positions here. But whatever your position was on the Seattle Seahawks trading for Maxx Crosby, it is now over. A little bit ago, while I was eating dinner, the news broke. The Raiders have traded Maxx Crosby to the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens decided to step up here, and they got Maxx Crosby for 2 first-round picks, 2026, 2027. So that's what it took. 2 firsts, nothing else. So one thing to think about here, one thing to consider is that the Raiders did get burned for not trading him at the deadline, because at the deadline they had more than 2 firsts on the table. It is at least widely believed. It is widely at least theorized that the Seahawks were offering 2 firsts and a player. We don't know the player. And they probably could have gotten more than 2 firsts from another team as well. But you snooze, you lose. So that's one thing to think about here. Lesson to hold in your mind as we go forward. But obviously, that's not the main thing on people's minds right now as it pertains to this, because Maxx Crosby is now a Raven, which means he cannot be a Seattle Seahawk, and everybody's going to have different ways to feel about this. One thing that I do want to say, though, because I think there's room for a lot of different takes on whether or not Maxx Crosby was worth giving up all this stuff for. Some people are saying, why didn't the Seahawks offer 2 first-round picks as well? Well, it's not that simple. And just to talk about it here real quick, the Baltimore Ravens are a team that just missed the playoffs and currently hold the 14th pick in the draft, and are going to have a rookie head coach in 2026. So if you use the Jimmy Johnson chart, and we're going to be busting this chart out plenty in the coming couple of months here, but the Jimmy Johnson chart, Ravens pick at 14. That pick on the chart is worth 1,100 points. The Seahawks pick at 32 is worth 590 points. So that is a difference of 510 points, which is equivalent to an early second-round pick. The difference just between those two. And if you go to the Rich Hill model, which some people think is more accurate, the difference between the pick in value is 325 to 184. So that's 141, which is about the value of an early second-round pick. Either way, it doesn't add up. And remember, the Seahawks don't have an early second-round pick anyway. They have the last pick in the second round. So what I'm trying to say is that if you wanted to make this Crosby trade, you would have probably had to throw in an extra first rounder. It would have been first round pick this year, first round pick next year, first round pick 2028, or second round pick this year, second round pick next year. Or maybe you throw in Byron Murphy or Gray Zabel, or you see what I'm getting at here? You see the issue? Like, we could not have matched this offer unless we were willing to really go to the moon here. Like, if he had been traded to Buffalo or Chicago, that would be one thing, because those teams don't have super high value picks. That would have been more frustrating, but we cannot compete with the Ravens when they're holding 14th overall. In this draft, where getting a higher first round pick means a lot more than it usually does. And while we don't know for sure, you would assume that the Ravens' first round pick in 2027 is going to be more appealing than Seattle. Seattle won the Super Bowl. Baltimore didn't even make the playoffs. So you have to filter everything through that lens. And I know that some people really wanted Crosby. I know there's going to be an instinctual desire to lash out and say, why didn't Schneider give up what the Ravens were willing to give up? The answer is because we don't have the same things the Ravens have. Like, the Ravens, in my mind, have done fairly well here. The main asset they're giving up is next year's first, which is muted if they can have a good season, and they should have a pretty good season with Crosby at the very least. But there are some things holding them back. There are some things that make you wonder. So I know that can go either way. But that 2027 draft class is looking very good in my mind, a lot better than this year's, and I don't think you want to be giving away your assets in that draft willy-nilly here. And if we had given up our first and second in the 2027 draft, I would have been excited for Crosby, of course, but there would have been that other side to it that I will have to admit would have weighed pretty heavily in my mind. All right. So that's the main thing I wanted to talk about here because Crosby's a great player. I think he's worth 2 first-round picks, especially because one of the firsts is in a weaker draft, the other one's a stronger draft. But at the same time, is he worth 3 first-round picks, which is about what we would have had to give up? I don't know. That, I think, is a little bit harder to defend. Maybe, but at the same time, I can't say it for sure. Is he worth... And it's not going to be Derek Hall. It's not going to work with there. I don't believe this trade is... I don't believe our 2 firsts and Derek Hall is better than this deal. So, is he worth 2 firsts and Gray Zabel? 2 firsts and Byron Murphy? No, I don't think so. Is he worth 2 firsts and 2 seconds? Maybe. Not a sure thing. All right, so now we can move on to other considerations. We can start thinking about maybe Grenard of the Vikings. Start thinking about some of the free agents, guys like Khalil Mack. There's plenty of other guys out there. And it had been kind of apparent in the last several days that Crosby was unlikely to happen. It started to look like it was just not in the cards. So I was mentally prepared for this, and I think a lot of you guys were too. But that would have been a great way to make sure that this team would have been a Super Bowl contender again in 2026. Now, the good news is he goes to the AFC, so he stays over there. We don't have to worry about playing him in 2026. And he doesn't go to the Rams, right? And if he had gone to the Rams, that would have been annoying because that would have been a situation where you have the added wrinkle of you need to try to find a way to keep up with what your division rival is doing, or else they're going to leave you in the dust. So I sound off down below. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know how you guys feel. Mixed thoughts. It would have been nice. I really like Maxx Crosby, but at the same time, it would have been very hard to compete with this offer. I know it doesn't seem like it's that much, but the difference in the 14th and the 32nd overall pick, very big. On both charts, our pick is barely more than half the value of their pick. And then you factor in the fact that the 2027 pick is assumed to be better for Baltimore than Seattle. It's actually a lot to make up. Again, you really might be talking about giving up Gray Zabel as well, and I don't think most people would be on board with that. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Good luck in Baltimore, Mr. Crosby.